crazy. Like a young kid, like 18, going up north on his own. And his finishing was unbelievable. He's probably one of the best finishers I've seen. I've enjoyed it, man. And if the right opportunity comes up for me to continue playing, then yeah, I will.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Daily Coaching Podcast, where we talk to players, managers and specialists within the game of football and coaching. And I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by a very, very special guest. This person is a professional footballer and has played for multiple clubs, including West Ham, Charlton, Bradford, Preston, along many others as well. I'm absolutely delighted today to announce my special guest, Kyel Reid. Kyel, thank you very much for taking the time to join me. How are you?
Good, thanks, man. You're more than welcome, man. It's been a long time coming, but yeah, we're finally here.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm very interested to find out about your story, and we'll go into it a bit deeper in a minute, but especially as well, both coming from Deptford as well. Seriously, it's really good to see how your career's gone on, and obviously, again, we'll talk about in a bit about what you're doing now as well. But yeah, I just want to take things all the way back to the start with all of my guests, because obviously, we're talking football, we're talking kind of coaching elements of it as well. Always I'm keen to kind of understand and find out how and when did football first enter your life?
It was first, funny enough, is actually the school we went to, Deptford Green. So there used to be a grassroots team called Moonshot.
Yeah.
So it's just by chance, like one day my brother was going training with Moonshot. So he's obviously 3 years older than me. And obviously there was no one to look after me at the time because our mum was at work. So I just went there with him and I was just having a kick about. And then the coach just said to me, "Oh, why aren't your brother joining with the games?" And I think I must have been about 6 at the time. So he would have been 9. So I joined in and everyone's like, "Oh, he's sick, he should play, like he's good," and all that stuff. And then from there, I just started playing. The coach ended up starting a team for my age group. So I started playing like 5-side tournaments like every week, winning like so much. My trophy collection was crazy. Like my mum would tell you, like I got so many like goal of the tournament, golden boots, like 5-side tournaments and that. And from there, that's where my journey started, like just being in the right place at the right time, I suppose.
It's crazy because, like you mentioned as well, about obviously Moonshot, and I know like kind of the good work that Moonshot has done and is still doing to this day as well. I think they've done a little bit of a rebranding. Obviously, there's a new Moonshot Centre as well. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's that funny part as well where you mentioned obviously about your brother being older than you, and then obviously playing in and around sort of people who are older than you. There was always this thing of, from an older perspective, you don't want the younger one to embarrass you. But then from a younger perspective, you want to embarrass the older person. And it's such like a constant battle. And you're almost, do you know what? Like, there's obviously certain guidelines, what the FA put into place where you can't play with certain age groups older than you and X, Y, Z. But I generally think there's so many benefits to playing with older age players because you do try that little bit extra almost.
And you've got to think quicker as well.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like, I learned throughout my playing career, even when I was younger at West Ham, and like if I was playing up like 2 years above, which I've done quite a bit, the physicality as well as like the time on the ball, like you got to be much more sharper. So then when I did end up dropping back down and playing for my own age group, like in the youth cup or something, like it just became easy because I was played up. The experience that I've learned playing with them, it just became natural, and that's how I started developing and playing. And then other players will pick up and join off that because they see the IQ and the level that I was thinking of, that they're trying to be on the same wavelength. That so it helps in a way, and there's no better way of learning and like becoming sharper and becoming stronger. Like it toughens you up. You're gonna get kicks and knocks, especially like if you're taking the mick at them, they're not gonna like it. They're gonna lift you up in it. So stuff like that you get used to, and it can only prepare you for what is coming like future.
No, 100%. Like you said, that physicality element is so key. And even to be fair, even at like your own age groups as well. I mean, like, I've always typically been very tall. So, I think that's a bad thing in a way because everyone's always like, oh, you're tall, you're big, you can just like battle off people. Okay, cool. And the shorter person, they can probably like find a way to battle off somebody their own height, but they also have to adapt and have the ability to do it to someone taller as well. Whereas me, because there's not really too many people who are taller than me, I'm just like, I don't know no different. So it's tough to like get that in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice. It's interesting, and obviously, again, you mentioned like obviously, having the opportunity to play for Moonshot, and obviously getting some of those trophies along the way. And I think that was always a big key factor as well when you're young, like getting a medal or getting a trophy, and basically saying that you're the best at doing.
Like when you win your first trophy, you just get that feeling, that hunger. You want more of that. Like once you get that first taste of it, you just want more and more and more of it, and it just became like so natural. And then my love for football just grew and grew and just became, that's all I knew, like every day, constantly football. And another thing is like, it's only when I look back now and I talk to my family members and they're like, oh, don't you remember you used to do like 1,000 kick-ups with like a tennis ball and that. I said, but did you know the logic behind why I used to play with a tennis ball? Because at my primary school at Tidemill, we weren't allowed to play with actual footballs. We was only allowed tennis balls. So throughout my whole youth team career, like in primary school, I played with a tennis ball. Even when I went home, my parents could have got me a normal football, but I said, no, I want a tennis ball. And that's why I practiced all my kick-ups, my skills, my juggling and stuff like that with a tennis ball.
No, that's class. Because again, you're adapting to the situation you're in. Because obviously, don't get me wrong, a lot of like coaches now will tell players, "Oh, do it with a smaller ball, do it with a tennis ball," because of the benefits. But you was almost forced into that situation. And we're talking. I remember I had on Marlon King, and we was talking about air floaters. Remember those like usually red or black balls or blue balls?
With the black on it, yeah.
Yeah, and someone would bring them into school, and literally you're playing with that ball, and you're thinking, this ball's unbelievable. Like, do you know how tricky it is to play with one of those footballs?
You don't understand, didn't it? You just look at it, if the guy's just a normal football, it's not, you can kick the ball that way, but it's gone the opposite direction, do you know what I mean? So it was hard to judge where the ball was going. But part of your childhood, things like that, we kind of like took for granted. We didn't appreciate, like, it just shows you when you're a kid, like, you just get on with it. You're happy to get on with whatever you was given at the time. Whereas now, kids nowadays, like, they've got so much more like facilities and better equipment and stuff on YouTube that they can watch and learn from. Whereas us, we just kind of was like, put out there and go and do it yourself kind of thing. Take what you're given.
Yeah. No.
You look back and you laugh and smile about it because it was a great part of our childhood.
Yeah. And like you said, we don't realize it at the time. And obviously, a point I kind of wanted to touch on, and obviously, like I mentioned at the start, obviously, we're both from Deptford, and I'm sure, obviously, Deptford Green's changed massively in terms of the actual facility. But I'm sure you can imagine that obviously they had the annex building, which is obviously the lower building for the lower age groups, and then obviously the main building. And there was 2 pitches, which I remember. Well, there's 3 technically, but at the lower building, you had one where it was basically just gravel. There was like one to the side of the building, it's just gravel, and it'd be like 30v30. Everyone will put on their trainers or mess up their school shoes, and then
put off their proper trainers and keep one foot of their school shoes on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the other pitch opposite the main building, and it was, well, even they had it in the lower one as well, but the red rubber. Now that red rubber, like, again, you think, oh wow, unbelievable pitch. As soon as it rains, like, your task just to try and stand up, let alone play football.
I skated.
It's crazy.
And we enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And it teaches you certain things, because you knew, like, oh, I couldn't play the ball too quickly, because if I play it too hard to somebody, it's just going to keep skimming off. I can't run too quickly as well, because I know that, like I said, I'm going to be like Bambi on ice and just trip over. But like you said, some of those key things, like, we don't see at the time when we're a child, and we look back now, and like you said, especially where, like, which is good in a way, but obviously, like, a lot of academies have, like, flat playing surfaces, they have indoor, outdoor facilities, and there was nothing like that.
Even like going back to like grassroots, like Sunday League, you're playing in the parks, like, you can turn up when there's no nets on the goals yet. You gotta wait for the nets to be put up and stuff like that. You don't look at, and then once I got into like the academy setup, and I'm thinking everything's done for you, everything's there. You're like, this is a dream. Like obviously we'll touch on it later with my son, but like I just say to him, like, you've got to cherish what you have, man. Because like there's so many kids that would love to be in this position that you're in. Do you know what I mean? And you just got to enjoy it, man. Play with a smile on your face, because it's the best thing in the world that you can do as a kid growing up to an adult, and you can have a great, beautiful life from it. Do you know what I mean? And you can look after your loved ones, and everyone can enjoy and have a good time.
No, 100%. And even as well, kind of that sort of like mentoring element of things, and like guidance element of things. Now, obviously, again, being in Deptford, Obviously, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even, when I was young, wasn't even aware of Moonshot. I mean, obviously I knew that they had like, you know, the centre there and things like that. But for me, the only club that I knew of at the time was probably Red Lion, who I played for a little while. And then that's closed down now. I remember, I think I joined there, and about after 2 years, they closed down. So that was gone. And then you had Dulwich Hamlet, but obviously like you had Dulwich Hamlet, and then you had the spin-offs of Dulwich Hamlet. So there wasn't that many, like you had to travel, you had to go somewhere like Kent or somewhere like that to go and play football.
Like Fisher,
Yeah.
Long Lane, and then
Yeah.
I ended up leaving Moonshot, going to Elms,
Okay.
which was in Catford,
Yeah.
and then they changed their name to Rutland. But in between that, I went to West Ham as a kid, and then obviously I was at Millwall for a couple of years, and then I had the taste of it, and then I kind of missed grassroots, because grassroots you kind of had that element of no fear, no pressure, just go and play and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Like scoring like 100 goals a season, like it was crazy, like my ratio, and I loved it. And I was playing upper age as well, so I was always like playing with kids older than me. And then I just remember going back, and then my mum, like before I ended up going back to West Ham, I was probably 11, and I remember like the last game of the season, I had probably like 12 different clubs with scouts there, like all fighting my mum, like, no, we want him, he's got to come here, blah blah blah. And then my mum just, I remember her sitting me down and just saying to me, like, it's up to you at the end of the day, like where you want to go, I'm gonna support you, and wherever you're gonna go either way. And then obviously West Ham probably came with the better like scenario for us. And there was a guy called Paul Senior who was like a scout who scouted like most of the young talented players in Southeast London. So it was, once he came and sat down with my mum and told her like how things were going to work and how he would help the situation. Because obviously me coming from Deptford all the way to Chadwell Heath, where West Ham used to train at the time, it is like probably a 2-hour journey. You've got to think about after school traffic and that. And plus my mum's still working at the same time. So it was hard for her to commit to taking me to training and stuff like that, which West Ham ended up getting me a chaperone where he would take me training 2 times a week, which helped and just took the pressure off my parents, and they can just come on the weekend, enjoy the games, and then the stuff like getting called up for England and stuff like that. So like it's been an amazing journey, but as I say to any young kid, enjoy the grassroots, because that's where you're going to get most of your fun as a young child. And when you come into the professional side of things, it becomes more serious, and it's more or less every man for themselves. You know what I mean? Because there's someone else that's waiting in your position behind you, waiting to play. So just got to just stay focused, work hard, and enjoy it, man. That's the main thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's interesting. Some points you pick up on there. So number one, yeah, Paul Senior is a legend in the sort of like Southeast London area. And it's funny as well because his brother actually worked at Deptford Green as well.
It's mad because he was actually my tutor.
Really?
Yeah, that's how crazy it was. So like I couldn't get away with anything, because if I didn't want to come in and say, oh, I'm tired from training or whatever, he can easily just ring his brother and say, oh, what's he been up to this weekend? But it worked in a better way where like I'd get days off, because when I was younger, like I think at 14 at the time, I used to get like what do they call it?
Early pass.
Yeah. So like I'd leave school at lunch and then I'll go and train early, or I might not come in the morning because I'm training with the first team, because Harry Redknapp used to get me into training with the first team at a young age to just get the feel of it. So that's like when like Defoe, Carrick, the Canio, all of them guys were there, like Thomas Repka, like crazy, like, and then like just doing that and then coming back to school, then I'll be in the school newsletter, like getting caught up. So like it was amazing buzz. Like I just, when I look back now, like I wish I'd enjoyed it a bit more, take it in a bit more. But I just kind of just went with the flow, and like, I was quite shy, like just quite humble, like I didn't really say much, you know what I mean? Just kind of kept things to myself. But I wish I like enjoyed the time a bit more, milked it probably a bit more, do you know what I mean? But even like teachers like Mr. Ashby, which you probably remember, Miss Castle,
yeah,
they all looked after me, do you know what I mean? And it's funny because my whole family, even my mum and everyone, went to the school, and they all knew, they was all there together with the teachers and that. So like, it's just crazy that my whole family went to the same school and everyone knows everyone. But
no, yeah, It's class. It's a nice like legacy to kind of leave on and carry on throughout as well. But yeah, it must be a crazy experience because obviously, like I was going to say, you obviously from your grassroots clubs, you obviously ended up getting found out by multiple different clubs across London. Obviously, you ended up going with West Ham, and obviously, like you said, some of those players, and then from the prospect of obviously going to train with the first team, even if it wasn't the first team, just training at that sort of facility. And then going back into school and obviously realizing, now I've got to switch on to, doing my schoolwork and things like that. But obviously, as your time at West Ham went on, you very quickly kind of progressed into that first team squad and into that first team environment. Like, how quick was that jump from, going into West Ham and then all of a sudden, like you said, actually being in and around the first team and, being a serious sort of contender for going in and playing for the first team?
It's mad when I look back at it now, yeah, and like so after obviously Harry left, so then I got my first call up to, like the England do like a pre training camp at Leadership where you're like from under 14s to like kind of like under 16s when then you play for the schoolboy teams. So like I was kind of like in that system now, doing that, traveling with them and just training with all the other players from all different clubs. And you just seem like, just to get that letter through with your name on the sheet and just to say, oh yeah, your driver's picking up at this time, like it's a different world. Because coming from Deptford, I'm like, what's, you know what I mean? Like all I'm used to is Moonshot, my blue cage where I played every day. Then going from grassroots, Moonshot Elms, playing in Catford to Chadwell Heath where the pitch is like carpet and stuff like that. It's a big jump. And then like, I remember when I was 14 playing for the FA Youth Cup team. So I played 2 years up with like Anton Ferdinand and then Graham Carrick, Michael Carrick's brother, Greg Pearson. So there's quite a few. And then I remember like after the game, I must have scored against this team called Chesley Street. So I scored from the halfway line. And then Alan Pardew must have came into the change room at the time because he was like the first team manager at the time. And all he just said is like, who is that effing young kid in the red boots? Because he didn't know me then, innit? Because I was a young kid. And then everyone's like, oh, that's Reedy. He said, tell him he can knock on my door tomorrow for like a pro contract. So then that day, the next day, like I had so many agents like ringing my mom, coming to my house, like trying to sign me up and doing all sorts. And then that's when I thought, bro, this is what it's really like. Like, this is amazing. So then in the end, I ended up getting my pro contract, which was early because you don't really want to sign it till you were 17 and 18. At the time, I agreed mine from 14, which kicked in from 17, my 17th birthday. So like me knowing that at the back of my head and still going to school, I kind of like took my foot off the pedal a bit. And like, because I knew in the back of my head, like I already got things sorted, you know what I mean? Whereas I probably should have took it more serious with my education as well. And just kind of like just went with the flow of it. But I kind of like just let it get to me and just kind of like started missing days of school because I wanted to go and play football and where I should have probably just stuck it a bit more and done both at the same time. But you live and you learn, and it's just amazing just to get that feeling of the manager, the first team manager coming in and saying like, who's that kid? And everyone's like, oh, that's him. And you're like one of the youngest in the team. It's just like a surreal moment. And then obviously agreeing the pro contract and then signing on the pitch against Leeds United. I can't remember when it was, but I ended up signing on the pitch against Leeds United and having my whole family there. And it's just a memorable moment that times like that you live for, do you know what I mean? And you look back on and you smile and just say, yeah, like, this is all because of you, mum, do you know what I mean? And all the hard work she's put into commitment and getting me where it is, because one thing I learned now as being a parent, like, you've got to be committed to getting your kid there on time. And it's hard work, it's not easy. But I didn't see that side of it because I was just thinking about me and football and training, not the struggles of how it is as a parent. And you've got to be there on this time, this day. And now kids are training more than I was. I was training like 3 times a week, where kids are training 4 or 5 times a week now. So it's a big commitment as well as still working at the same time. So it taught me a lot, but it's something that I loved. And up to this day now, West Ham has a big place in my heart because they basically gave me the platform for me to start my career and taught me my tools and trade. So yeah.
Nice, class. And it's interesting, like, you know, you work so hard over such a long period of time to get to a certain point. And you know, it was that one moment in that game, which, you know, it's not to say you wouldn't have made it if that moment hadn't have happened, but that one moment fast forward it so quickly. And it's interesting because I think almost, you know, clubs and managers, they should have a bit of a responsibility in the sense of, you know, they know obviously potentially how old you are, they know that you're still in school. It's like, how can they best support you, not only on the pitch and technically, but also, like you said, off of it as well, to ensure that you're on track? Because ultimately, like you said, and, you know, utmost respect to families who, like you said, help you to get there. And no one sees that. You know, it's only the person who's in those boots, so to speak, that knows that, because, like you said, it's a commitment. It's not even just the physical things that they do, it's the emotional and psychological things that they do. Because, you know, what if you don't get picked? What if a club says, oh, they want you, and then 2 seconds later they say, oh, actually, we don't want you? Like, there's all of these different emotions that families have to go through in supporting you, but they do it because they care and they love you and want you to get to where you want to.
Yeah, and I learned as well, because like I thought my youth team was like the best. Like we literally was beating teams every week, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, like every week. Like, and to know that only two of us ended up getting pro contracts is just crazy. And that's when I learned, whoa, like this is mad. I thought we all would have made it and been playing forever, but the older you get and the more you learn about it, that it doesn't work like that. And it's very small, the percentage of kids, how many make it out, how many that come through the whole academy setup that go on to be playing for the first team is crazy.
100%. And even as well, later along down the line, and so it's going to come on to kind of, you know, your journey that you've taken as a player. But, you know, there's one hurdle of, like you said, potentially getting a pro contract. That's one thing. So, you know, potentially you've made it as a player, but then there's the whole maintaining element as well. And, you know, whether that be at one club, whether that be at a certain level, whether that just be as a professional in general. And there's so many different sort of, you know, circumstances, factors that influence or affect those situations. And I was going to say, like, obviously throughout your career, I mean, you know, some people go to a club, say, for example, like, you know, we're talking about the Man Uniteds, where they stayed at one club for one whole of their career. Now, that isn't realistic. And also, as well, I don't think it's healthy, because I don't think you get to experience different environments, different managers, and all those different things. How did you find it adapting and going to different environments, playing under different managers, playing in different leagues, in different clubs? What was that like as you went through?
It's funny because we sit down and we laugh about it now. Like I went on loan. So basically, my first loan was like to Crystal Palace, where I went and played. I think I played 1 or 2 games, but then I got injured, so I went back to West Ham. And then the following season, I ended up going on loan again to Barnsley. But going to Crystal Palace was quite similar. I'm from South London; it went far for me. But obviously, that was probably like an early experience, but I didn't get the real feel of it because obviously I got injured like in the second game. Then I ended up going back to West Ham. But then when I went on loan to Barnsley, and it's just crazy, like a young kid, like 18, going up north on his own, no family. Do you know what I mean? I don't know the area. I'm in a hotel, and I'm like, what is this? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why I say, like, people got to be like, you got to be mentally and physically strong to handle stuff like that, because it can either make or break you. Do you know what I mean? And people don't look at that side of things. They probably think, oh, you get X amount of money and that's it. But there's so much more behind the scenes where I didn't have no choice. But for me to gain first team experience, I needed to go and get the experience. So I ended up playing in the championship. I think it was like 26 games or something. The Barnsley, and scoring 2 goals was like, it was crazy. But in the end, I ended up loving it. And then you get the feel of playing first team football week in, week out with men, the physicality, and just learning and educating yourself from the players that you're playing around. It was good, man. And I look back and I say, like, it was a good learning curve. Do you know what I mean? Like, as I tell any young kid now, like, if there's an opportunity for you to go and play first team football, go and do it and see how you feel. But at the same time, appreciate what you've got. And if you're at a big club, my biggest is stay there as long as possible. If you need to go on loan, go on loan. Don't leave. Where that's probably one of my biggest regrets. But we'll get back to that a bit later on. And then when I went another loan to Blackpool, that's when I was like, we're getting changed in like porter cabinets. The food's getting carried in. We're at West Ham, like the kit's washed for you. Your boots is cleaned. Like, you've got a chef. And then me going up there, I was like saying to my son's mum at the time, like, what is this? Like, we're training on a park. Like, this is a professional club. Like, this can't be. But it makes you appreciate what you got and where you came from. Do you know what I mean? And you can never like take it for granted because it can just be taken away like that so quick. And to see like the players that were still at that level, but they were still enjoying it. And it was a championship club at the time. So, but on the flip side, I only went there for 6 weeks. Ended up getting a loan move so I'd done well there. Ended up going back to West Ham for a week. But my last game on loan for Blackpool was against Wolves. And then Mick McCarthy rang me straight after the game because I'd done well against them. He said, how about you think of coming and joining us on loan? And then maybe a view to a permanent. So I ended up going there in January. And then that's when we got the promotion to the Premiership, where I scored the equalising goal to secure the Championship trophy. And that's another surreal moment, but it was against my old club where I went on loan at Barnsley. So like the fans at the same time were hating me, but then the Wolves fans were loving me. But at the time, you just got to enjoy the moment. And that's probably like one of my biggest highlights of my career, just scoring that goal and that feeling of the fans just running on the pitch and just going crazy. And that was like my first, obviously, involvement in promotion.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you said, it's a crazy situation because there you've had so many different turbulences. Like you probably like being at West Ham, you're thinking like maybe now you've got such a growth mindset that, like you said, you see the bigger picture of like, look, go out and get some first team experience, go out on loan. But you're probably thinking like, right, I'm at West Ham, what, I have to go to Barnsley on loan, or I have to go to Crystal Palace on loan. And then it's like you're thinking, all right, cool, I'll go because I'll get some first team experience. Then you come back, then it's like, okay, well, what, am I back at West Ham now? Okay, what, going out on another loan? Okay, cool, done well in that environment. Like then obviously got attracted by another club, go there thinking, right, cool, I'm going to press on here. Like you said, such an influential goal, and obviously it reaps so much rewards. But in that short amount of time, your name goes so globally because you've been exposed to so many different sets of fans, and from a young boy who's going up to Barnsley, didn't know nobody, now everybody knows you because you've been everywhere in that sense.
That as well. So like from that loan to Barnsley, I think that's the season that West Ham was in the FA Cup final against Liverpool. So like obviously the championship finishes like a week or two before the Premiership. So once I finished at Barnsley, I had to still go in with the first team at West Ham. So in the end, because I've done well on my loan, so obviously I was still training with the first team and being amongst it. And then I ended up travelling with the first team to Cardiff at the Millennium Stadium to be involved in the FA Cup. And like that was another like wow factor. Like you're getting on a private jet, you're getting suits tailored for you, and I remember even Adidas coming and delivering like my boots, especially for me on that day. And then like seeing players like Gerrard, they had Cisse up top.
Yeah.
Like they had like a good team, and then like just the whole atmosphere, like it was just crazy. A full stadium, and like obviously West Ham's got like a great support of fans, so like a full stadium, and Liverpool's got their team, and like just like an unbelievable experience. Just like, and I'd done the warm up because I just missed out on being like on the bench. So those times there's only like 5 on the bench, but then the following season it was 7. So if it was like the following season, I would have been involved. But just to be there was just an experience alone. Do you know what I mean? And that was my first real taste of like FA Cup football. Like, it was just unreal, and just to be in the final and watch the boys. And it was unlucky in the end to not win and lose on penalties and that. But
Easy game, that one.
yeah, it was amazing, man. Gerrard, just them 2 strikes that he scored, that's unreal. But yeah.
No, it's crazy. And like you said as well, like being in those sort of circumstances and situations, and one thing from, like you said, signing your pro and obviously being in and around that environment, being in and around those players, getting inspired off of them, motivated off of them, and then to be in certain situations, like you said, obviously the Wolves situation, obviously then going on to being in, like going with the match day team as well, like just being in and around that, I'm sure that must just give you so much more, if you needed any more at that stage, motivation and determination and drive to go on.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I can't explain it to this day now. Like, it's just, the feeling is just unreal. Even from when Padre said to me, yeah, like, you're traveling. So bearing in mind, I already made my, I made my first team debut the following season. But yeah, it's just so real just to say that you're traveling with the squad and you're going to be involved. You're going to do the warm up and stuff like that. It just the nerves in you, just crazy. When you had the fans just chanting and just getting crazy, like as soon as you come out for the warm up, and the atmosphere is just unreal, man.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And like you said, you could probably go from like friends and teachers being the ones who call your name out, and then all of a sudden it's fans calling your name out. And like you said, this must be a surreal moment to understand. Like, number one, all these people know me, and number two, all these people supporting me as well.
Yeah, unreal. And as a kid, that's the times, the moments that you live for. Do you know what I mean? That's what you want growing up, as you want to be like the players that you're watching on the TV. It's like the same players you want to get autographs. So 10 years time, that's going to be you kids wanting to be you. So like it's a cycle that goes round and round, and you just got to be the best role model you can for the younger kids that are looking up to you.
No, 100%. And talking of like role models and things like that, so obviously, you know, throughout your career, you've obviously had some moves where it's been either permanent moves or loan moves. And, you know, to be honest, if you're looking back over your career, you've been experienced in so many of those situations we spoke about so early on. So, you know, quite a few different promotions, obviously from League Two and League One, and obviously been involved in that situation as well. And obviously you've been around so many like managers and players as well throughout your time. Like, when did that point come in your career when it was almost like, you know, you've gone from looking up to these players to being one of the players, and then to mentoring mentoring the rest of the team, mentoring the rest of the players?
Yeah, because as I like, cause for me, like when I grew up, obviously when I got into the first team, like a real cementing my place in there, and then training with like Teddy Sheringham, like Craig Bellamy, Bobby Samora, like Matthew Everton. So like just to see those players working day in, day out, like how hard they train and the extras that they do. Because obviously people don't hear about that side of things. Like, oh yeah, they stay behind doing extras, working on this, working on that. They just turn the TV on a Saturday, watch Match of the Day, and just see them scoring goals. But no, like they actually practice that on the training field. And that's one thing Teddy always said to me about. Because before I used to just, because I always had a good shot, I used to just smash it. But he said, no, just place it. Like, and his finishing was unbelievable. He's probably one of the best finishers I've seen. Like he can both feet, side foot, volley. He can whip it. He can do everything. Do you know what I mean? And just watching him, and then he had like a big like impact on me being around the first team. And he was like one of my fans that like egged me on, like, keep going, you can do this. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna play, like you're being the manager's there, like now he needs a chance, blah blah blah. And then when I did end up making my debut against West Brom, for the likes of him and like Nigel Coker, like they just made it so easy for me because they just talked to me through the game. Because I didn't even know I was starting. It was like I was in the squad, I was on the bench, gone out for the warm up. Matthew Everton got injured in the warm up. So we came in from the warm up. Then Alan Pardew says, "Oh, you're starting." I was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, you're starting." I didn't have time to get nervous or anything. I couldn't ring my parents or my mum or anyone to say, "Oh, I'm going to be playing," and it's live on Sky. So I just went out there. But obviously, with Nigel playing in midfield next to me, he just talked me through the game. Then I'd like Scaloni playing behind me, left back. But obviously, he's right-footed. But yeah, it's just so easy. And then just getting that, I just said, yeah, this is what I want, man. Like the love and the moments like that. The next day being in the papers, like everyone's ringing you for interviews. Like it's just crazy as an 18-year-old. Like this is happening, and just yeah, man. I just love every moment of it. And every kid, I say, you just got to enjoy and work hard. And these are the moments you live for. And to see your parents smile and happy to see how far you've come and what you've achieved. There's no better feeling. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And like I say, it's so nice to hear as well that some of these players as well did help you along the journey, even if it was that sort of, you know, social support as well, in terms of just like hyping you up or supporting and helping you through it. And I remember actually when I spoke to Nigel Coker, number one, obviously from being from a similar area as well, he probably sees that in certain people and wanting to help people through, you know, people who are from similar situations, and knowing what they're going through and helping them through that. And I think obviously, you know, even certain managers, like I know, for example, I think he played under Phil Parkinson quite a few times. So, you know, potentially he has that arm around you where it's like, you know, you can play under him well because you know what he sees in you almost.
And that's the thing, like Parky was like a father figure to me because he done a lot for me, like on and off the field. So like, for example, like when he told me, so first of all, when I left West Ham and I went Sheffield United, then I ended up going on loan to Charlton, and then done well, and then I went back to Sheffield because I had another year left at Sheffield. So then he said, obviously, now I want you to come to Charlton. Obviously, I'm London. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm back home. My family can come to games, and everything was nice. The loan was good. So that's right. Yeah, I'll go. But then stuff like he was saying, no, sign the 2 year. But I'm listening to my agent, no, sign the 1 year. Whereas stuff when I look back now, I'm thinking I should have just took the 2 year because then I got the extra year security. Like, and you never know what could happen. And things in football can change tomorrow. Like the manager can get sacked, which ended up happening. Even though we was flying that season, we was like second or third with games in hand, but I think we had quite bad weather, so a lot of games were getting called off. Then the owners came in, took over, and they wanted their own manager, so they ended up sacking him. I ended up breaking my foot, like metatarsal, my last game of the season when Chris Powell came and scored, got sent off. So like there's mixed emotions, like scored a absolutely banger goal, then getting sent off, and then that season I ended up leaving. Do you know what I mean? But if I had that extra year, I would have had time to get fit, to come back, prove myself, and go again. But just because I didn't, I listened to my agent at the time, I ended up signing the 1 year when I should just took the 2 year for extra security and stuff like that. Like I'm thinking, why is he telling me this? But he was actually looking out for my best interest as well, not just on the field but off the field.
Yeah.
And then like I just had like a big respect for him. And then like even after that, he went and scouting for Arsenal and doing some bits behind the scenes. And then he ended up getting me a trial at Barnsley with Keith Hill. So things like that he didn't need to do, even though he's not in the game, but he still wanted to help me with my career still. And he's like, they should have signed you. Like I even came to the game, you played in pre-season, you was unreal against Scunthorpe, scored, set up 3, but I still didn't. But I think because of my backtrack, everyone always thought, he comes with a big price tag. So that kind of like affected things. So in the end, I ended up just training and waiting. And in the end, Parky rang me and said, I'm going to Bradford. It's League Two. It's a massive club, big fan base. And I remember sitting down thinking, Bradford, League Two? Like, what? And then end up turning out being like probably one of the best clubs, like other than West Ham and all the other big clubs I play for. But in terms of like support and club, like togetherness, it's an unreal club, man. Like the fan base is just, and they looked after me like really well. I can't fault them at all. And I had some great memories with Bradford and like the journey we've been on, and even down to like getting my injury, my ACL, coming back from that, ended up leaving, getting a move to Preston still while I was injured, and then going back on loan to Bradford, and then welcoming back. It's just unreal. And if you probably speak to any Bradford fans, like they'll probably tell you the same. Like it's just one of the clubs that has a big place in my heart, but also down to Parky, like he made sure like everything was nice for me and my family. Because the same again, I was out for a meal and then he's rang me and said, I want you in Bradford tomorrow. I'm like, what, tomorrow? Like, this is Sunday. Like, you want me? So I ended up driving up. And then before I know it, I signed the next day. Then that's it. I'm there now. I'm in Bradford, like 4 hours, 5 hours away from home on my own in a hotel. And I just got on with it though, because when you think about it, if you love playing football, you don't mind where you are. You're just going to play in it. So I ended up playing. And that season, we ended up just staying up. And then the following season, that's when we got the promotion to League One and stuff, and went on the amazing cup run and stuff like that as well, which you probably want to touch on later. But yeah, man, it's a real inspiration of people that come in your career and come in your path, and the little stuff that they do to help at the kind of their heart that they don't need to, but they do. And one thing I learned within football, it's a massive game of opinions. And that's when you learn about, as you said, because I've been at different clubs with different managers and different systems and style of playing, that it's all about game of opinions. Like one manager can love you and then the next manager could not, or the manager can love you and then the assistant manager doesn't love you. Yeah. And then like it's a constant battle. But as the same again, fans don't think about that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that is hard to. That's why it comes back to me saying you've got to be physically and mentally strong, because there are times when you're not playing or there's injuries. And then how do you come back from that? How do you motivate yourself to keep going, to want to get into the team? You've got to fight for your place. Then when you're in the team, you've got to want to stay in the team, so you've got to be playing well. So there's never no time to like kind of take your foot off it. But Bradford fans, like even if we're losing, they were always behind us. And even if I was like coming back from injury and I'd go to warm up. So Park used to send me to warm up because I get the fans going. So they'll start singing a song, and then like the cop ends like probably like the loudest part of the stadium. Like there's so many fans behind that part of the goal. As soon as I just go up to warm up, they'll start singing like my name and stuff, and then the crowd, and then obviously it lifts the team a bit. And then even when I'm playing and I'm hearing that, it lifts me, and I gain more confidence and just start enjoying the game and just making stuff happen. And yeah, it's just a part of my career. I look back and say, yeah, like that was an amazing journey, and probably one of my best moments within my football career, like the journey I had with Bradford. Because even like off the field stuff with like me having my first son, obviously my son, like the pregnancy. So my partner stayed in London at the time. But Parky, I didn't train. I stayed in London and just had a driver taking me to games. But people don't know that stuff. But stuff like that they've done for me, which was amazing. And that's the same season that we got the promotion. So it worked out a blessing in a way.
That's crazy. And do you know what? Yeah, like two interesting points here I was going to say. Like, number one, like I agree. I think like that's why I was saying before about sort of like relationships with managers, coaches, fans, board, whoever it may be. Like these are such important factors which could like potentially make or break you in a way, because you know, like for example, you're saying, you know, you get on really well with Phil Parkinson, all of a sudden he gets sacked. Then where does that leave you? But then ultimately, you know, he did get sacked, but then he went on to another club, gave you another opportunity, allowed you to sort of build your way back up the ladder almost. And I was going to say as well, I think like, you know, you see a lot more of these sort of like discussions and podcasts and talks with players and managers and whoever it may be within the game now. But this is why I think it's so important, because, you know, people like myself and there's some other really great sort of podcast episodes out there as well, like the Beautiful Game podcast. And we're not looking to get stories out of people, but actually we're just looking for you to tell your truths and tell us about your journeys and things like that. I mean, like, you know, like you said, you've done really well at Bradford, but say, for example, if you hadn't, but people didn't know the external factors of, you know, having your son, you know, the fact that you had to travel back and forwards and things like that. And I think that's why these conversations are so important, because it actually not necessarily shows a player in a different light, but tells the whole extent and, like, you know, factors and situations and circumstances that have happened along the way almost, which has made you into who you are.
Exactly, yeah. And it's mad because I've never heard of that before. And like when they said that, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm there to support obviously my son's mum, but at the same time, I'm still there supporting my team from afar. Like I still was there match day, still turning up, doing what I need to do on the pitch. Then straight after the game, I'm going back to London. And then obviously that's how my son kind of like grew into it, because straight away, as soon as I had him, so he was born on the Thursday, then it was like Easter Friday, we had a game. So as soon as he was born, that night I was gone straight up for the game the next day, and then I'm back after the game. And then before you know it, he's at a game watching me, but obviously he's not physically watching, but he's there amongst it. And that's why I feel like that's how he just grew into just loving the game of football himself. And then now seeing him on his little journey with Chelsea and the grass was just amazing. But he's a kid that is obsessed with football. He just loves football. And it's just, as a parent, there's no better feeling just to see that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And kind of coming on to that point then as well, like, you know, like I said, obviously, you know, you've had your career, it's been fantastic, obviously, along the way, so many different achievements, whether they be sort of, I'm going to put in inverted commas, like, you know, your trophies or whatever it may be, but so many other achievements along the journey as well, like these little ones, which are what people don't almost see. And obviously, more recently, you've obviously been at Billericay, and there, I'd say that you again was more of like, you know, you've seen a senior figure and obviously mentoring these players. But then at the same time as well, like you said, you've now got your son as well. Like, where do you feel as though you are at the moment in your footballing world in terms of, like, you know, passing on that knowledge, passing on that experience, supporting people, going the extra mile for, you know, obviously people like your son as well?
It's like even like going like Billericay and obviously Sutton, places like that now. So now players look at you as a senior player, and because of my track record of what I've done, what I've achieved. So like just out of context, like it just could be a normal conversation. oh, so how did it feel doing this? Oh, you've done that, you've done this, you won that. Like, your CV's crazy. Like, why are you here? Do you know what I mean? I said, because I love football and I want to play football. Do you know what I mean? It's not about the money side or anything to me. It's about me enjoying football and just I want to achieve more promotions and just add to my CV and just play football. I just love playing football. So then like just me like telling players like make sure you do your extras, like work hard, like don't worry about staying behind the extra. If you want to laugh and look at him being busy, like you're not being busy, you're working on your trade and like you working there is you're gonna take it into games now. And then like before you know it, a team could come and watch you and you perform well, then you're gone on to another club. So then those players that are laughing at you thinking, what's he doing and being busy? This is it showed, it's paid off. Do you know what I mean? So you put the work in on the training pitch, you'll get the rewards on the match day. Do you know what I mean? And people say you train as you play. So I always say like as long as you work hard, the rest will come. Do you know what I mean? And that's the main thing. And you got to enjoy it. That's another thing you've got to enjoy it, which is sometimes hard because I don't think you physically go into a game feeling 100% when you become a pro. Like I don't think there's any pro that can probably tell you I'm going to a game feeling 100% because there's always that little niggles or there's like some form of something. Do you know what I mean? But you still got to go out there and perform. Once you put that shot on and you cross that line, like you're not thinking about anything because you're thinking about we want to win. Like we're here to fight. We're up for a battle. Yeah. That's it. But I just tell any young players like just work hard, stay focused, and like if you're not playing at the time, show the manager in training, like be amongst him, give him a headache, let him think, oh, I need to get him in the team somehow. Do you know what I mean? How? And when you do get your moment, that's when you got to take it and take the chance and create something. Just do something. No matter what position you're playing, just do something where the manager can look like, oh, he came in today, like he done well, innit? Like he's like proper give me something to think about. And that's it. Like that's all you can do. From when you know you're working hard and putting in the work, the rest will happen.
No, 100%. It's quality advice, and I think as well, like I said, obviously number one, I know your son's in good hands anyway in terms of his footballing career and his footballing journey. But I think advice like that definitely helps as well because of your experiences. And I've always said, there is no magic answer to becoming a player or becoming a professional. But I always say that influences are talent, motivation, and opportunity. And what you're talking about there is that motivation element. That motivation element can never die. Like even I say to become a player, but an important factor is for me not even necessarily the becoming of the player, but the maintaining of a player because of like we said about all these external factors. And that motivation has got to continue throughout, and it has continued throughout your career. Hence why you said when some players are turning around saying, well, "Why are you playing here?" Like, look at your CV. Because you're motivated. Because you're motivated to play football. You're motivated to, they're not small teams, but if people perceive them as small teams, doing something, you're motivated to make a change and make an impact with the team and with that progression almost.
100%. And that's just where I've come from is just loving the game of football and wanting to play football and always play with a smile on my face. I used to get told off, like we could be losing or something, and I just naturally have a smile and they probably think, oh, he's not taking it serious or anything, but I just always got a smile on my face and that's what I'm known for, like to always be happy and just enjoy what we're doing and like just doing what you love. That's what I say.
No, 100%. And it was interesting because you say that about playing with a smile on your face. Obviously, came down to the charity game a couple of weeks ago, and that's exactly what you was doing. You was playing with a smile on your face. You was absolutely ripping up some of the old players. He was killing it. And by the way, how he didn't score, like there was a couple of opportunities here, I'm not gonna lie, but I think when you hit the post, when you hit the crossbar, it was crazy. But it's good to see that, obviously charity games should be about fun and should be about enjoyment. But yeah, it was just clear to see how much you just enjoyed being out there and probably trying to get one over on a couple of players as well.
Yeah, and it just shows that that's how much I love football. And it's funny because my youth team manager at West Ham was actually our manager of the game that day. And he came to me after the game and said, why are you not playing still? Like, you've got so much ability still. And I just said to him, you know what the game's like? It's just opinions and like opportunities. If that opportunity is there, then yeah. But at the same time, I'm not going to force it or act like I'm desperate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've had a great career, achieved a lot. I don't want to ruin it by just going anywhere and everywhere. So, yeah. 33 now, like, I'm going to be 34 this year. And like, I've enjoyed it, man. And if the right opportunity comes up for me to continue playing, then yeah, I will. But on the flip side, if these charity games is gonna for a good cause, and I can do my bit to perform and get the fans off their seat and make it an enjoyable moment where they can go home and say, actually, I enjoyed that game today. You know, that kid, he stuck out really well for me. Like he still got a bit. Do you know what I mean? I enjoyed it, and that's my aim, and that's one thing I love about football is just exciting the fans and letting them go home with memorable moments and be happy. Because as a fan, most of them just come to games just to moan, but if you can send them home with a smile on their face, then it's even better. So
No.
yeah, I just love the game. So yeah, there's another one coming up soon. So yeah, I'll be ready
Yeah,
for that.
I see that one. I see that one. I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to look on the maps to find out where that one was. I hadn't ever heard of the location, so I thought to myself, let me have a look up it. But I see it's in Surrey, so
I think it's the same place. I think it might be at Dorking.
is it still it's still at Dorking, yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that'd be quality. I mean, yeah, look, ultimately, if you end up going to a club, I think that'd be fantastic as well. I think it will obviously, yes, it'll be a benefit to yourself because you get to carry on playing the game that you love, but ultimately as well, you'll be a massive benefit to a team which you go to. But obviously, touching on that as well, kind of want to end up by going on to, what the situation is now. And obviously, we've been talking kind of off air and previously as well. And I'm really keen for you to share what kind of, your plans are for your next step and kind of that. Because I always say this, players have the footballing life, but obviously, they always want to try and have something to, work on afterwards. And what is it that you're kind of currently planning / doing as well?
Yeah, so like me and like a few of my friends from the game, we call it like LAF, like life after football. So like it's just like while you're playing, setting up that transition so it's smooth. So when you do end up stop playing, you already got that transition of what you stop doing and what you're building. So you can just go straight into that. So like obviously I've been playing football for a long time and I've been at loads of clubs and experienced loads of things. And from a young age, I'm just thinking, what can I do that's missing that can help the younger kids that mentally and physically prepare them for what's to come to be a professional footballer, because every kid wants to be a professional footballer. So if I can do my bit to help and prepare them for that next step, and that's what I'm going to do. So like for years, I've been thinking about setting something up, but also giving back to the community where I grew up as a kid in Southeast London, because there's so much talent in the area and there's so much talent within young kids, but it's them finding that in themselves and bringing it out and getting the best out of themselves. So I'm aiming to set something up where I can coach and mentor them as well as give them the platform, because I've got all the contacts with all the clubs, to go and give them that opportunity to go and express themselves and have the career that they believe that they should. So that's where I'm going to come into play and set up something local in Southeast London and get the ball going with that, and then help these kids achieve what they want to achieve as their dream. And obviously we've been speaking of air, me and you, and what we're going to tie together up as a team. So it's something that I'm looking forward to. I'm really excited about it, and any form of knowledge that I can give to any of the younger generation looking up to me, or when they watch this podcast, and as I say, just work hard, and we will do what we can to help them. But once you're out there and on that pitch, it's down to you. Do you know what I mean? You have to show everyone the ability that we believe in you, that they can see as well. You know what I mean? And from when you get the opportunity, just run with it and enjoy every moment of it, and take your chance, man, and just be happy.
Nice, class. Honestly, number one, obviously, it's a massive honor to have you on here. Like I said, in terms of your journey, just the player, but then also as well knowing your background. I'm coming from Deptford and things like that, but also to see kind of where coming to an end of a career is never easy for a player. But it's the cliche thing of sometimes saying they want to pass on knowledge, but I think that you've gone a step, well, not even a step further. You've gone a mile further than that. It's not only about you passing on your knowledge and wisdom and experience and knowledge, but it's also you're actually implementing something as well, which it's not to knock footballers who don't do that, because it's not possible all the time, but you're going a step further and you're actually implementing and putting something in place where all of that knowledge, wisdom and experience that you're sharing can actually be flourished by a player. And not only just on one occasion, so it's not just like, you know, they come down for, like, for example, one occasion to get one experience with you. It's over a long period of time, and that's what development is all about. It's about something that happens over a course of time. So I think, you know, what you're going to be implementing, and obviously when it comes out and your information more spreads about it, I think, yes, it's an incredible thing that you're doing, and honestly, it's so pleasing to see that going back into it, especially again a community that I grew up in as well. So no, it's fantastic.
And obviously, like, it's amazing to see what you've done as well, like coming from where we come from and the stuff you've achieved and what you've gone on to do in your life with your coaching and stuff. And it's amazing just to know like someone from the same school, same area as me has gone on to do so well, but then also we have the same beliefs and share the same views on what we want to do to help. So that's another nice thing as well. So it's good that people like us can obviously meet up and put something together that we believe in strongly, that is going to help the next generation go one step further than people like me. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got someone that's had the real insight of how it is behind the scenes and what to expect, and just someone that they can talk to about anything confidentially that they're going through and what they're experiencing, and what we can do as a team to get the best out of them on the field, because that's what matters, and that's what they're judged on, what they do on the pitch. So if we can demand and get the best out of them week in, week out, then that's us done our job, and we can be happy and know that we've helped that kid go on throughout the battles, all the demons that they're facing, the obstacles. They've overturned that and gone on to and achieved something amazing, and they're happy, their parents is happy, and that's what we're aiming to do. And we're going to build a strong team that we're going to be able to achieve that and get the best out of these kids and help the next generation go that one step further and keep them off the streets. That's another main factor as well, because where we grew up in Deptford, there's a lot of things going on where they can easily get influenced into other stuff. And from when kids want to make money, they want to buy what they see, the rappers or the footballers with the cars, the jewelry. So they're thinking, how can I get that? If they can't get it playing football or working, they're going to try other means of other ways of getting influenced by the older generation to doing certain things they shouldn't do. So that's where we come into play and help get the best out of them, achieve what they want to achieve, and go on to live their dream and have the nice things that they want to dream and have. And that's it. And that's what we're going to, because Deptford it weren't easy growing up around there. Do you know what I mean? So from when we can do anything to help give back in that local community and we can produce young talent, then that's it. We've achieved what we wanted to achieve, and that's the main thing.
No, it's class. It's class. It's exciting, and also as well, it just goes to show what can be achieved from coming from those sort of situations and those sort of circumstances as well. So, yeah, no, honestly, like I said, it's been incredible to find out more in depth about your journey. It's been incredible to find out, you know, what you're doing already in terms of that support for your son, but then also as well what you're going to be implementing in the future. But yeah, hopefully as well, when listeners watch back and listen back to this, you know, it's something which they can get really engaged with in terms of seeing what's going to actually happen and get involved in that as well. But no, honestly, Kyel, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And yeah, I'm excited, like I said, to see the project get up and running off its feet as well.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for having me, man. And as I said, so it's been a pleasure, and it's just amazing to see your journey and the stuff that you're helping to put out there for people to watch and get insight of how things are with footballers, referees, managers, and coaches and stuff like that. So what you're doing is an amazing input, and kids watching or anyone watching that are interested in doing football or setting up a podcast or anything is just follow the movement and message you for any advice and that. But on the project side of things, near the time when things are up and running, we'll do another podcast on that, and we can give them a real insight of what we're doing and a bit more. So we can't say too much, but yeah, once it's up and running, we can do another one and let everyone see what we were talking about.